But this was later on because we were in the camp, 15,000 children.
In wenigen Jahren verscheudet von Milliardensummen blieb keine Mark übrig.
Hitler wanted to kill all the Jews in Europe. Not many people believed he would really do this, so no one stopped him. He rounded them all up and loaded them onto trains and locked them in horrible places called concentration camps. There was no way anyone could escape. The life they used to have was gone.
I was born in the city of Bialystok. It was my hometown. It was a city with a lot of social life. It was a lot of schools, a lot of yeshivot. It was even a Jewish newspaper, a Yiddish newspaper. It was even a Yiddish theater. And was a lot of rabbis came out from the city. And was a lot of factories like textile, producing leather and different things, and was a very vibrant city with a milk dairy. And my father was a distributor of milk. He was going to collect from the farmer's milk, and we were producing byproducts and selling it to the distributors. I went back in '93. A lot of Jews from Israel and a few of them from the United States. We went back to put up a monument for the Jewish uprising, what happened in Bialystok in 1943 before liquidation of the ghetto. So we were about 50 people, and the dedication was on an old cemetery. But the cemetery was nothing left except a plaque saying here was a cemetery of the Jews wherever lived in Bialystok between 41 and 43. I was in 6 camps, starting with Majdanek. I was one from the lucky ones, because when was the deportation, we were 30,000 Jews, and they couldn't take it all of them at the same time. They put us 150 people to a cattle car, and one of the days they rounded up 500 men and women. They put it in 3 different cars. All the trains were going straight to Treblinka, to crematoriums, and these 3 cars, they put it on a separate railroad, and they took us to Majdanek. From the 500 people, it only went out 200 because they at that time, Germany was involved with Russia, and they needed clothing for the cold weather on the frontier. So they looked for tailors and shoemakers, and they asked everybody they put up on the yard to ask which profession, and because in the ghetto we had to work, otherwise we would be deported earlier. So I worked in a tailor factory as a presser, and the German liked my answer because I told them I had to make a living because my father died when they rounded up. When the German came in 1941, They rounded up 5,000 people in 2 different days, and they took them out to the forest and they killed them in mass graves. So because I told them I was the only provider for the family, so they put me with 200 people and they sent out to another camp, Blizhin. The remainder of the people wherever was in Majdanek, we heard later on they took them out 4 months later in November of 1943. They killed them all in a forest because the crematorium couldn't take all these people wherever were there. Because from August of 1943 till September of 1944, I was in Blizhin for 1 year. And from that time, from September to December, I was in Birkenau. In Blizhin, I was there for a year. I didn't work as a presser. I was just in a quarry, cutting stones. And over there, I got typhus because of sanitary condition. We couldn't wash ourselves, not washing the teeth, not even washing ourselves. All we had is just a little water to wash our face. So because I was young and was a lot of people dying out, I was ashamed to say, wherever died out during the night. And I didn't keep my food for later on, only a lot of people keep the bread for later. And I used their bread, but nobody could use that. And after the Russian was closer to the camp, so they took us to Birkenau, Auschwitz. Over there I was 5 months. In Auschwitz I worked. I didn't want to be with the kids because in the time liquidation of the ghetto, they took 1,200 kids, they sent them to Theresienstadt, Czechoslovakia, and we heard later on, they took them all straight to the crematorium of Auschwitz. So I always worked with the grown-ups, and I worked in different hard labor work, just not to be with the kids. And because we came from another camp to Birkenau, so we didn't go to selection. The only thing later on was the selection, was they looked for kids wherever was the height. If you were lower from horizontal, in the vertical they put up 2 boards. Wherever was lower from the board, they would take them to the crematorium. So we would stand up on the toes and be able to look taller, and this way I passed the selection. And then when the Russian front came closer to Birkenau, they took us on a march in the winter time with no shoes, no jackets, just the uniform, camp uniforms, and the shoes were clogs, like they were from wood. And we were walking for a week because the trains couldn't come to Birkenau, so we had to walk a little further where the frontier was not that close. And then they took me to Sachsenhausen, and over there they were sorting out the people sending to different camps. They sent me to Ordruf, a camp over there where we were building a tunnel in the mountain, where they were building the V2s, where the missiles, where they were shooting over England. So at that time was a harsh winter, only the luck was this one of the days they came up and they said, who is volunteering to go to another camp? I volunteered, and they sent me to suburbs of Berlin to clean the streets after the bombing, Allied bombing of the streets. So during the day, we would go and clean the streets of Berlin because at night we had to go back to the camp. The life in the camps itself was very hard. For breakfast, we only had a slice of bread with marmalade and Einsatz coffee, not regular coffee. At lunch was soup, and the soup was, the vegetable was swimming in it. And at night, just a slice of bread, the same thing with marmalade, and that was our food for every day. The reason I went through that, because I was young. And second, I had the willpower, because when was the deportation, all my family was hiding in a bunker, and when was the uprising, the people went and they started burning the wooden houses surrounding the ghetto to slow down the German from coming into the port. And second, they wanted to run away to the forest, try to make a road to run away to the forest. Because of my family, 3 families, my 2 uncles, and my mother and brother and sister, because my father at that time was not alive, We were hiding in a bunker because of the smoke. We went out to check, and the Germans were waiting for us in the yard. That's why they took us. And because I know this, my family left in the bunker, so all the time they give me the power to live. Maybe the family is still alive, and I would like to meet him. So that gave me the power, the willpower to stay alive. No matter what, I would do anything. I blacked out wherever it was. I even blacked out this I had a sister. That much I blacked out in my life during the life in the concentration camps. I was in 2 camps around Berlin, and then the Russian freed me of May 8, 1945. Right away I took a train, and I went back to Poland. Only the Polish army were taking down Jews wherever came to Poland. So because I was on a train, on a Russian train, I went to Russia, to the first city where the border, they call it Brest-Litovsk. I was worked in the army in the commissary, and with some fine angling, I got be able to go on vacation, and that's why I went to Poland. When I came to Poland, to my hometown, I didn't find no Jews. Wherever I knocked on the doors, the light would go out, nobody would answer the door. Finally, I found 2 Jewish people, and they told me, there's no Jews now in Białystok. Why don't you go to another city lodge? Over there is Israeli counselors. Out they come up, Israeli counselors, because the Israeli were joined the British brigade, and they fought the Nazis during World War II. So after the war, they stayed in Poland, tried to get wherever survivors to get them to go to Israel. In 1946, I went to Israel, and the English were waiting for us, because at that time, British had a mandate over Israel, only 1,500 certificates were ready in a month. So they were waiting us with boats, and they took us to Cyprus. Over there I was 6 months, and then I came to Israel. I went to, because I didn't have no profession, and because I was young, so they sent me to agriculture school. Over there was 1 year. And in 1948, when the war was Carter independent, they took all 18 years old to go to the army. I was in the Palmach for 2 years. Wow. And I fought for Jerusalem. We were in Jerusalem for 3 months. We were surrounded with Arabs. The road from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem was cut off. And after that, some reconnaissance army people found a way to bypass. Was a police station, Latrun, wherever they were overseeing the road going to Jerusalem. That's why Jerusalem was cut off from the rest of Israel. Jerusalem was short of water and food, only because after a couple of months they found a way through the mountains, and they started bringing food and water to Israel, to Jerusalem. In Jerusalem we were fighting at night, because during the day we were resting. All the fights were going out, and Jerusalem was then a fight on the same street. From one side of the street were Arabs, and the other side were Jews. This way were the fighting. After we finished the 2 years, I went and I lived on a moshav. That's farms. Everybody was his own farm. And over there I was only one of the organizers, only because my wife and was too dangerous to live there. We were on it was too close to the border, and they were infiltrating the Arabs. Would come every night, and was a lot of shooting. So we decided to move to the city. I went to work there in a milk dairy, because that's the only thing that I knew. And then I find out I got 3 aunts in Chicago, and so they want me I should come to United States. And I didn't want to go. Finally, my wife persuaded me and my family after 5 years waiting. So in 1959, I came to United States. I worked in a milk dairy for 18 years. And I worked not only in a milk dairy. After I finished my shift of 8 to 10 hours, I would go in the morning and unload a trailer full of milk with a 40-foot trailer to unload to drivers and take up the empties in 4 hours by myself. For a long time, I didn't talk about my experience in the camps because I wanted this, my family shouldn't suffer the suffering what I went through. If I would tell them, I wouldn't wanted they should have pity on me. So finally, in the 90s, my grandchildren and my wife persuaded me I should write a book. So I wrote a book about my life, the life of a child survivor from Białystok, Poland. It took me a long time to write it because it's very hard. When the first time you start speaking about it, it's very hard. Only after I wrote the book, it was get much easier. And since then, I'm going to schools and to colleges, to UCSD and to other colleges to speak about my experience, about life during the Holocaust, because we should never forget, and we should tell to next generation, with hope to sniff out hatred and prejudice. Hope a Holocaust should never happen again. During the Holocaust, 6 million Jews got killed, and from them, 1.5 million was just kids. So most of it, and they didn't deserve, they didn't sin in their life because they didn't explore life even, and the life was taken from them. That's why we should remember or never forget them. The kids wherever going to Poland, they'll never forget what they saw, because in 2004, I took my family on a trip to Poland, to my home city, to the concentration camps, and every time we're speaking, the kids reminding me about a trip wherever we took to Poland. It's not easy. I have 3 daughters and 6 grandchildren, and all of them was with me, and we never had a harsh word speaking. We was all together, and was a hard trip, only it was worth it, because it's came out a lot of learning from just seeing wherever this, from a big population, wherever Jews were in Poland, was almost 3 million people, and today is almost 5,000 left. And some people, Jewish people living under assumed name, under Polish name, and they're afraid to say they are Jewish. And still today, in the churches, they're still preaching, kill the Jews. When I was in 2004, we met a lady, she's a child of a survivor, and she brought us a flyer, shows 4 guns with bayonets sticking to a Jewish star in the middle. So, and the anti-Semitism in Europe is still there, especially in Poland. Hatred, it brings on yourself. You hate somebody else, and somebody else will hate you, and there's goes in like a ring, and it'll come back to you. So we shouldn't, the hatred and bigotry should be forgotten, and we should love each other. In Hebrew they say, trust them only with thinking maybe it's very hard to bring it up from Hebrew to English. Hashdeu v'chabdeu. That means like him. Only Hashdeu always have in mind this, don't trust him. For me, it was very hard till today to trust somebody. I mean, not now, quite a few years. And for me to laugh, my wife was saying, when I see a smile on your face, believe it or not, the only smile when it was after maybe 15 years, after the war, when it changed, I changed around a little. I always believe in God, and that's what kept me going. Without believing, there is no life is not worth of living without believing in somebody.